Sean, on his own as just a one-man team, scaling his agency to over 16 clients in just under a year.
So I was doing 14 clients and then 16 clients at a time by myself. If you have a TAM of 100,000, you can hit them all up in a quarter. You almost can't fail if you do a certain amount of volume.
I'm interviewing Sean Wilson, the founder of Vertical and the former founding BDR at a company called Eve, which is a sales tool that is valued at over $1 billion. Sean has previous experience of working at ColdIQ, one of the best clay agencies in the world right now.
Throughout my time, about a year and a half at Eve, we scale it to about $250 million in valuation. At ColdIQ, they do very few mailboxes. I'm setting up thousands now. Mine is straightforward. It's 3 lines. It's like, hey, this is what sales teams are struggling with. This is what I do, what I can do for you. This is who I've helped. When I say I have not taken a weekend off, I mean I have not taken a weekend off.
In today's episode of my weekly podcast, I'm interviewing Sean Wilson, the founder of Vertical and the former founding BDR at a company called Eve, which is a sales tool that is valued at over $1 billion right now. And that's not to mention that Sean has previous experience of working at ColdIQ, which many people consider to be one of the best clay agencies in the world right now. As you will come to find out, Sean's journey is a bit different from most people in this space. He somehow managed to go from the US Navy, breaking into B2B SaaS tech sales, before then accepting quite a big pay cut in order to learn fancy AI and automation tools like Clay. And that even includes Sean on his own as just a one-man team, scaling his agency to over 16 clients in just under a year. In this conversation, we go deep into what actually works when it comes to implementing Clay in the real world. Not the theory, not the templates for beginners, but rather what's actually happening when you're sending thousands of emails every single day, managing a lot of clients and trying to build systems that don't fall apart in the process. And yes, we even managed to talk about how Sean evaluates every client before onboarding them, why volume often beats personalization, the exact data and tech stacks that he's currently used to run his agency, how he thinks about hiring GTM engineers, and the real trade-offs of building a clay agency that a lot of people seem to not be talking about right now. As always, I've added timestamps so that you can jump through this video and get as many golden nuggets as you want, and anything that we reference at all, including the tools, the examples of cold emails to get replies, the frameworks, everything will be linked as the top link in the description down below underneath the video. With that said, let's jump straight into the conversation with Sean. Well, Sean, thank you so much for finding some time to talk to me. For those people that have not met you just yet, do you want to give them a quick introduction as to how you went from being in the US Navy about 10 years ago, then your transition across business development, the sales world, then ColdIQ, which is one of the biggest clay agencies in the world, which a lot of people, are familiar with, and now running your own agencies?
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me. It all started kind of when I was in the Navy. I was in flight school there to be a fighter pilot. And when I was going through, the O2 system on the jets was broken. So I was in flight school for about 3 years. The whole pipeline was down, so I didn't fly for about a year. So during that time, I decided to drop out of flight school, actually. Didn't get my wings, which allowed me to get out of the Navy. From there, I started my sales career. I did typical SDR work, worked at companies like Sendoso and a couple other startups. And then my claim to fame in this space is I was a founding BDR at a company called Eve. Throughout my time, about a year and a half at Eve, we scaled it to about $250 million in valuation, which I then left and then became a client of mine.
That's really cool. And if you want to take me through just that transition, so I understand how you could go from Navy to just sales, but how do you go about going from sales and business development roles over to this like AI clay kind of wave? How do you make that leap of faith there? And, what prompted that?
So it kind of fell into my lap, right? But I did find success with cold email pretty much off the bat. My first SDR role was Sendoso. Yeah, pretty much within my first 2 weeks, I already understood how to write copy. With the whole AI transition, I was during my time at Eve, and I started hearing about, obviously, Clay. That's around the time that my opportunity with ColdIQ came. I connected with Mitch Lieben over LinkedIn, and I decided to jump ship from Eve to ColdIQ to learn everything that's AI and automation and sales tools.
One question on that, how does it compare? Because when you were at Eve, I'm sure you were in quite a comfortable salary package. How does it compare on a compensation side of things? And how does it compare in terms of work-life balance?
It depends, man. It's a good question. So, coming from a US job, it was a pay cut working at ColdIQ, right? They work on contractors, like they don't give you benefit packages and stuff like that. ColdIQ is one of the highest paying agencies. So if you're a go-to-market engineer, that would be your dream job pretty much because they pay the most. You probably learn the most. They have a ton of tools to their disposal, kind of, everything you need. Go from doing sales at one company, which is already difficult, and now all of a sudden you're doing it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 companies at once. So if you're not used to it, I mean, your mind just becomes mush, right? It can be very stressful. I had 6 years of sales experience already by the time I joined ColdIQ, and I was doing four clients in my first couple of months, and I was working a lot. Weekends to catch up on campaigns. Now on the agency side, it's even worse. I launched this thing about a year ago, and I work all day, every day, man. There's no break. There's no holiday. There's no weekend.
If we talk about specifically the aha moments, like I can give you an example on my side, for instance, when I discovered the instant data scraper for the first time, and before I used to just like, go on websites and copy and paste the like random details from the website. When I discovered instant data scraper, I was hooked straight away, and I was like, gosh, this is what people call web scraping, right? So those were some aha moments for me, like instant data scraper, just first time trying to chat GPT and that sort of thing. I'm sure everyone can relate to that, like dopamine spike. On your side, what would you say were some of these like light bulb moments that stood out to you that made you believe in tools like Clay in the first place? And also on top of that, made you want to make a career out of running an agency that implements Clay and on.
So at ColdIQ, I learned basically all the tools, how to use everything together, right? Clay, I became a master in Clay during that time. But recently it has been the scale. At ColdIQ, they do very few mailboxes. They do a pretty small setup. When I was there, they were doing 20 mailboxes for their clients, right? Which was sending maybe 300 emails every single day. I'm setting up thousands now on behalf of some of my clients with large TAMs. And that's been kind of the eye opener, that the scale at which you can do this and the benefits from doing this, right? If you have a TAM of 100,000 and you can hit them all up in a quarter, I mean, you almost can't fail if you do a certain amount of volume.
Yeah, that's the Taylor Heron equivalent, right? Like where I know
100%.
Taylor did a video where he was breaking down how he makes so much money for our B2B. I think he brought them in like 2 million in revenue or whatever in just a quarter or something like that. And it's just the sheer volume of outreach that you do. And it's not even that personalized. It's just like the first line, like the preview text on the email just shows that you've done a bit of research and enough offer and like a call to action, which is tempting enough.
100%, man.
What's your take? I know you mentioned copywriting, and I know we're jumping a bit all over the place there, but what's your take when it comes to selecting the right clients in order to implement Clay for them? I guess it's a large total addressable market. So do you want to just walk me through your hypothesis on that side of things?
You're going to be disappointed with my answer here. I don't even use that much Clay for my clients. I'm on $1,000 a month subscription. It's all APIs, so I don't burn that many credits. I have partnerships with, all the data providers, basically all of them, and everything goes through API. So I'm not on this massive Clay plan. I use it for, enriching everything, research, scoring, tiering, qualification, and I guess that's what you use Clay for.
Yeah, I mean, it's because I guess, well, by the way, top link in the description down below if you're listening or watching right now will be a guide explaining how to save a bunch of Clay credits. But it's a big point that you don't need the most of the subscription. Most people can get away with a $349 plan, which just connects Clay to your email automation tool. But maybe $800 a month plan if you want the CRM integration included. But does anyone really need anything over the $800 Clay plan, in your opinion?
Definitely not. I think I would go maybe one bump higher, go to the $1,000 plan, because you go from 50,000 credits to 70,000 credits. It's a nice bump for just an extra $150. I think that's worth it. That's what we're on. We're on 70,000 credits a month. But we don't, if you use your API keys correctly, you don't have to burn that much credits and spend that much money on Clay.
What are some of the key tools that you would say you're spending the most money on right now on a monthly basis?
So my stack for data enrichment is basically I'm now pulling in leads from AI Arc, which those come with emails that some are verified. I'll re-verify that list with Lead Magic first. Then I'll run it through Prospio, ICPs, Better Contacts, and I'll run the last through Find Email. Find Email isn't part of the Better Contacts waterfall. It's another great provider. So I add those four, and then all catch-alls are verified through Bounce Band for looking for certain signals, certain tech stack. Built with, I also use their stack. They're a little more expensive though. Built with is a lot more affordable. Depends by client and what they need. But
on your side as well, one thing that really got my attention when I was looking through your LinkedIn profile was that you worked for Sendoso. So how effective would you say is like that idea of like sending personalized gifts to your prospects, assuming that your total addressable market is small and assuming that you can quite frankly afford to send gifts to your leads into your prospects? Like, how does that work?
I think it's great, man. It's a great way to build relationships with your clients, right? With your customers, especially as, other channels are maybe losing effectiveness. Cold email isn't what it was 5, 6 years ago, right? There's a lot more loops we got to go through. What worked really well for us as at BDRs was offering e-gifts, whether that's like a coffee or a quick lunch or whatever. We'd offer our prospects a quick little e-gift of $15, lunch on us, hop on the call, and it would work a ton. We book a ton of meetings that way. But then, yeah, more expensive stuff like little handwritten notes, right? It goes a long way.
Yeah, so I guess the Sendoso do handwritten notes as well.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I will be exploring that later on because we have as I mentioned, we have a client now who was very much interested in that. I think we were choosing between that and another provider as well. So that's really good to know. But one thing you touched on, I made a note now, and I really want to come back to that. You mentioned having some partner relationships in place. You mentioned some tools that you're using, like FindEmail and some of these other tools, where obviously you're very likely to be on custom packages. And for those people that may be watching now who are thinking about starting an agency, can you talk about how you can nurture and how you can create those partnerships so that the price that you're being charged by some of the bigger providers are different pricing to the price that you see on the landing page for just normal customers? So how would you go about building that relationship?
Yeah, the main thing is you want to create value for them, right? You want to make it so that they want to give it to you for free. The only way to do that really is to have a voice, build your own voice, build your personal brand. If you're, putting out content, you're getting views, and you're seen as a voice that knows what they're talking about in the space, they'll want to partner with you, and they'll come to you, right? My first few, I reached out, and I don't have a big following. I think I have like maybe 12,000. But even back then, I had like maybe 4 or 5, and I reached out to Prospio, and me and Matthew spoke, and we sparked that up pretty quick. And yeah, everything was kind of fall in line. Just what's really important in today's day and age is your personal brand. So whatever you're doing, make sure you're popping up across different platforms.
Yeah. When you mention personal brand, I know a lot of people would say, just start posting on LinkedIn or just start doing YouTube or whatever it is. If you had to pick a platform, I assume it will be LinkedIn because it's just, the simplest, and, you can get pretty decent reach and can grow quite naturally on the channel. How would you go about just going from getting zero engagement, having no idea what the hell you're doing with LinkedIn posting, all the way to getting to a point where, say you're getting 20 likes, you might be getting 30 comments on a lead magnet giveaway, right? So how would you build that presence if you were to start completely from scratch?
The way you want to think about your posts is, what are you selling? Who is your ICP, right? Who are you selling to? Just talk directly to those guys. Offer value. Educate on whatever your topic is. To be totally transparent, I benefited from being a ColdIQ when I started posting. And that was also one of the drivers for me joining, because I didn't want to build my personal brand. And I knew that they helped each other grow, right? Through reposting, comments, likes, the whole team kind of chimed in. And that definitely sped up my own growth.
Mm. Yeah, I can relate on my side. I had a post that, like, 2 of my most viral LinkedIn posts that both got like over 300,000 impressions were piggybacking off someone else's following. So what you can do if you're like a really small account is you can just have a viral looking hook. And by the way, the hook is the first 2 lines of any LinkedIn post. And for those hooks, you can just name drop any random big expert in your field. So for instance, I did one where it was like, I stole Eric Nowaslawski's personalization waterfall, and I'm giving it away for free, right? And it's like a comment X, and I'll send it to you in the DMs. I think that got over like 100,000 impressions. I'm sure it will be applicable in some other areas as well, where you can just identify who those thought leaders are. You can tag them in some posts to start with. At the very least, start commenting on their posts. And as soon as you start commenting underneath their posts, they'll get their virtual assistants, their ghostwriters, whoever it is, to start commenting under your posts as well. I find myself commenting under a bunch of like super small accounts posts now as well, because I feel guilty because they comment on mine every single time as well.
Yeah.
Walk me through the positioning right now that you have over at Vertical, which is your agency. So who were your first clients? How did you go about opening the agency? Like, what were some of the first steps that it took you in order to open up the agency?
For sure, yeah. I actually started my LLC while I was still at Eve. So I was already had this kind of project in mind that I was going to do an agency. But then kind of with the whole AI boom, it kind of enforced my ideas. And that's why I jumped ship over to ColdIQ to take that pay cut and to learn how $1 million agency operates. Yeah, I got my first client from a referral from the VP of sales at Eve. Sent me one of his buddies, who's my first client, who then sent me another one. That referral sent me a second client. And from there, man, I just did what I do, which is send a lot of cold emails, and everything else has been cold traffic, 100%. Then I set up 3,000 sends a day, and now I'm doing about 8,000.
For context, most of the guys that I know that sell some sort of clay implementation services, they just benefit from just inbound for the most part. And that's what takes them from like zero to doing like $1 million a year in revenue. And I'm talking about like, for instance, like Stack Optimize, Growth Today. I spoke to Yanni a couple of weeks ago. They're just relying on a lot of inbound as well. So what does outbound actually look like? Because as I mentioned earlier, you're basically selling more leads to salespeople, which is quite, a saturated thing to sell. So how do you stand out in that? And what are some examples of campaigns that, you get ROI from and you get demand generated from?
It's in the copywriting, man, because I see, especially, I get maybe 5 to 10 emails a day from agencies selling me lead gen services. So that tells you, for one, your competition isn't that strong, right? They can't even build a list properly if they're reaching out to me. And two, their copy is just terrible. Mine is straightforward. It's 3 lines. It's like, hey, this is what still seems we're struggling with. This is what I do, what I can do for you. This is who I've helped. And I drop in some Eve social proof. This is top of mind. Kind of easy CTA. Yeah. We're setting probably 3% reply rate across a lot of emails.
And it's as simple as that. Can I ask, are you using any personalization within that, I assume?
0.
That's the other thing. That's crazy. Would you mind sending me like a random screenshot of just a blurred out email on the back of this? Because I can add that to the guide, which will be the top link down underneath this. And
Yeah, sure.
people can just take a look of what kind of copy actually gets replies. Because I get occasionally an email which has 0 personalization and it's from like another agency. And I'm like, hey, I want to buy from you, which is rare, but it happens still like once a month.
It's all it takes, man. Hit your target at the right time and just write good copy, concise copy. Yeah, it doesn't have to be so fancy, right?
Awesome. So, and I take it right now your funnels or like your inbound, outbound in order to get new clients, it's just all about doing that high volume of outreach on a daily basis. On top of that, you're doing some LinkedIn posting.
Very, very
You're
little.
also on the Clay Experts directory as a Clay enterprise partner, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So walk me through that. How beneficial is it to be on the expert directory do you get much traction from that?
Yeah, some. I'm on the Clay one instantly and Lemless. Definitely leads that come in from there and book calls. We have a ton of volume from the cold email campaigns, and then LinkedIn. Admittedly, I've not been that active on LinkedIn. I'm trying to ramp it up, but yeah, it's kind of taken a back seat. I've been a lot more active on X lately, which I've actually really enjoyed being on. Honestly, a lot more than LinkedIn.
How useful is X for finding clients for Clay implementations, for instance? Would you say it's an underrated platform?
That's where I got my highest paying client, was directly from X. It's a very underrated platform. And then I signed a second one on a consulting basis just this past week. And
That's
it's
pretty
fun
cool.
too, because everyone's unhinged. You just say whatever you want. It's not so structured and politically correct like LinkedIn is. And X, everyone just says whatever the hell they want, which,
And what blows up on X compared to LinkedIn? What are some similarities and what are some?
man, little things. I actually had a tweet the other day. I got 143,000 impressions. I got liked by Alex Ramosi, which is fun to see. It said something like, it was like email 1 ignored, email 2 ignored, email 3 ignored, email 4 not interested, email 5 ignored, email 6 actually, can we talk next week? And it said, this is normal, this is outbound, this is why 1% wins, or something like that. And it blew up completely. Just little
Wow.
stuff, right?
Would you say X just a volume game in terms of you could do 2 tweets a day,
2 or 3 a day.
it's
It's a
2 or
volume.
3 a day, and it's a lot higher volume than LinkedIn. But yet again, you don't need to worry about, being delighted to announce something every time that you post, right? So you don't need to
Exactly.
really.
You post whatever you want. You don't worry about it. It's volume. Yeah, you want to do probably 3 a day. It's harder to grow. I'm working with an agency that kind of like helps you out with like comments and likes and reposts to get your stuff out there. Because when I first started X on my own, I was getting like 4 or 5 impressions on my own tweets, like no visibility, right? So working with these guys, minimum I get like 3K, 5K. For context, and I had that big one. I had a few big ones on LinkedIn. The most I've gotten was about 45,000. And that was back then when I had support from the entire ColdIQ team that was kind of boosting it. Now my posts get between 1 and 4,000 if I'm lucky. So engagement has been way low on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's something I found as well. I'm still sticking to just LinkedIn as my main platform because I want to just try and spice up a bit on YouTube. And then at some point, now that you mentioned X, I'll check it out and I'll probably buy a random course about how to grow an X.
Yeah, yeah.
See if I can learn anything from that. But I know some guys like Nick Abraham are also in the space. He's got an X account and he tweets a lot, assuming like a ghostwriter does it for him, because like I see the regularity at which he tweets and the regularity at which he posts on LinkedIn. He's like literally everywhere. So
Yeah, yeah. You got to be on. That's the thing. But it's fun, man. I recommend it. It's going to help you out for your business growth, everything.
what does it take to start with? So as soon as you sign up for an X account, I guess you just add a bunch of people who are big in your space. So you would just probably add the founders of like Instantly, your Alex Samozis, and like all of these guys that talk about like cold outreach pretty much.
Yeah, just follow whoever you want. Whoever you want. Of course, Alex Ramosi and some of the guys some of those gurus that I like listening to. Other guys in the space, like you just mentioned, Nick. There's another guy named Sean who posts a lot of good content, stuff like that. But I started with 0 followers a couple of months ago. I have 1,400 now. And I only follow like 55 people or 60 maybe. So you don't have to like send out all these connection requests.
That's really cool. And are you in a hypothetical world? Could you do like a content waterfall whereby you post the same stuff on your X as you do on your LinkedIn?
Repurpose it. What you could do is you could break down one longer LinkedIn post into maybe 3 or 4 X posts, or do one long form. Yeah, 100% repurpose that.
This really taught me quite a lot, because on the acquisition side, like I was always under the illusion that I needed hyper personalized emails to be sent out in order to get more agency clients. We actually experimented. I hired the head of customer success from Belkins, which is like one of the biggest lead generation agencies in the world. And we did outbound with him and we got quite a few leads, but they were using like really personalized, quite extensive emails, which, you know, we couldn't send at a high volume. So yeah, I'm going to try that kind of more mass outreach approach that you mentioned. And yeah, I'll make sure to check out the example that you send across afterwards as well. So in a hypothetical world, what happens when someone books in a call with you? So they book in a call, they just rant at you about the inefficiency in their sales process, what they do manually already, how they see Clay and AI and all of this stuff going on. Is that typically what happens? And then based on that, you just give them a convincing business case. Do you want to walk me through how that first interaction works? All the way through just to the proposal stage, I guess, because a big chunk of the process that's not seen by a lot of people is what actually happens between the meeting and before you close that first deal for your agency clients.
For sure, man. I probably have a different approach than most. I'm a pretty chill sales guy, which might have might have cost me some deals at times. But yeah, man, I basically have them walk me through the current situation, right? First, on the business side, how much revenue do they have? What's their LTV? We'll go through their ICP and what they're doing on the sales side. Kind of dig into those pains, find out what they're doing wrong, and then offer a solution to fix that, right? Kind of go through how we do it, how we scale it, what they should expect with a certain kind of volume, stuff like that. And most of these are 1 or 2 call closes. They're pretty quick. I have a deck laid out. Again, I walk through the process, benefits of using an agency, everything that they get, whether it's tech stack or and volume and whatever the case. And then down to my social proof, my role at ColdIQ, my role at Eve. And I'll leave it open. If they say, okay, cool, we're going to revise and we'll reach out soon, I'll give them 2 weeks before I follow up. Like, just let them do the thing. Often they'll just come back to you. I take them a month. A month later, say, okay, we're ready to go. Boom, let's go. I give them space. I'm not too annoying with the follow-ups. And, if they tell me they need a few days, and I'll probably give them 2 weeks.
Yeah, you mentioned the LTV as well. So for a lot of people, these abbreviations could be a bit funky. So lifetime value of a customer. How does that make a difference for you in terms of just understanding if you can provide an ROI for the clients?
Right. It helps me kind of gauge their ROI, if they're going to get ROI from the service, right? So if they're selling these little $5, $10 pops, they're paying me $15,000 a month. It's like, okay, we have to do a lot of damage here to come close. It really just depends, right, on their conversion. So I just like to get a better feel for it. And if I feel like they might not get an ROI, then I kind of talk them through that, the risks of this. And if they still want to move forward, we can move forward. Basically, I tell them, if I can find your leads online, we can make this work for you. A lot of times they're going to ask for results, what to expect. Every agency is going to tell them, oh yeah, we'll get you 50 leads, 80 SQLs, I tell them, we don't know. We're going to find out once we test the market. And the reality is, if you've been in the space long enough, you know how that is. Like,
Mhm.
the clients that have PMF are the ones who do best, right? That they're seeing that large TAM, PMF, that we can scale, and that's going to print money for sure. But a lot of these younger companies, startups, they might not even have a single customer yet, right? So there's a lot of discovery to do, a lot of learning to do, which cold email is also great for, but it requires more patience, right? You better be ready to spend 3 months retainer on an agency to test and see what what's actually hidden.
Do you have any recommendations for what industries or what type of customers to avoid working with? For instance, the typical example always comes to mind of like your website design companies, your
Yeah.
offshore and outsourcing companies. Recruiters are quite difficult to get ROI for a lot of the time. Any other types of industries or like company specifics do you absolutely, put on your bucket list of, companies do you want to work with? And at the same time, what are some of the characteristics apart from the lifetime value and the total addressable market size that you prefer working with right now?
Yeah, those you mentioned for sure. Cybersecurity for sure. Compliance, risk, not as fun. That the deeper in the enterprise you go, the harder it is for this to work. Not that it can't work. Like we actually just booked the CTO of Intel for a client, so it's possible. It's just a little harder. You got to be smart about your approach. But what else? Tier one banks isn't that fun to do. I'm actually stepping away from legal tech, like law firms, although it's what I have the most experience with. I get maybe one new client who wants to do target lawyers, probably a month from my experience with Eve. And I've started turning them down, and I'm probably going to, I have two more guys doing law firms, and I'm probably going to break that relationship up pretty soon because it's hard. And these lawyers are getting absolutely filled with the emails. I mean, everyone is, but lawyers especially. And yeah, it's been hard to reach these guys, which is part of the reason why I broke up with Eve.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So, I mean, right now, would you say it typically has to be a 3-month commitment in order to get some sort of positive traction for a client when it comes to implementing Clay? Do you agree that on average, if you are implementing a new GTM system, if you're implementing a new Clay system for a client, would it take typically around 90 days or so? Or what's the kind of expectation there? Because I know expectation management is quite a big thing.
No chance, man. I expect to get results on the first day of sending. If we're sending 2,000 emails a day for them on day one, I expect to get leads on day one. Now, revenue is a whole other story, right? That's going to depend on a lot of things. I actually have a client, um, just made the YC batch, who we were printing meetings for, about 75 SQLs a month, and they churn because they didn't have the internal process to close, right? So it depends on the company, on what they do internally with the sales. But on the lead gen side, you should expect definitely within the first week to start getting some qualified leads.
So we touched on client acquisition. We touched on how you get them over the line, the kind of expectation side of things for clients that are onboarding. How does the onboarding process look like? Is it the standard kind of thing where they pay the invoice up front, they sign a contract before that, and then I guess you have an onboarding form to be filled in and you have an onboarding call? Is there any other extra spice, anything else that, maybe you looked at ColdIQ or somewhere else and you were like, hey, I'm going to chuck that into the onboarding process? How does that look like? And yeah, what's special about it, if anything?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's contract first. Once you sign that, we send an automated welcome email. Has a ton of information. It has a Stripe link. Once we get that setup fee plus first month paid, our team gets to work on the email infrastructure. We'll set it up within a day usually, start warming up. But within that document, they have other documents like how to handle positive replies, how to a discovery call doc, how to close calls, kind of help coach them up a bit. Also has an onboarding document. It's about 20 questions. That tells me everything that I need to know about how to set up or how to position their company. And then we go over that document on an onboarding call. Basically, what you want to do there is just set them up with email bison, set them up with their accounts. All the Slack channels, all that stuff is done automatically. And then just dig into their ICP on the onboarding call. Leave that call knowing exactly who you're going to target on your first few campaigns, what the offer is going to be, all that good stuff. And then we go to work. We basically let the mailboxes warm up for 3 weeks. You can do it after 2 weeks, but 3 is we see them better performance. And yeah, we map out their TAM. We give them the list of accounts for them to approve. From there, we build a list. Also share that with them so they can have for future initiatives. And then we start sending rough drafts of the copy. Put some comments, we adjust, and then sort of finalize everything for the end of that 3-week period.
But there is also a lot of different kind of sides of the argument when it comes to automating the agency ops. So what percentage of that onboarding process is automated? Because I know you mentioned like the contract signatures, the welcome emails, all of that stuff. Like what percentage of the onboarding process is automated before that first time that they jump on the onboarding call?
Good chunk of it. Like I press a button and it sends them the contract. I press another one and the welcome email goes after they sign. The Slack channels also are made automatically. So the human part of that is the onboarding call where we go through that, and then everything afterwards is manual work pretty much.
What's the tech stack like on the automation side for you? Are you a big fan of Make, N8N, is Zapier, or is it like a Go high level? What's your tech stack on the agency side for like more internal ops? rather than anything?
We're using N8M for just about everything, whether it's simple automations like that or response agents. So now we built an agent where it basically helps a client respond to the email so they don't have to do it or they can do it faster. So all that stuff is done through N8M.
Gotcha. And how long did it take you to learn N8N, and where would one go to learn N8N completely from scratch?
I'm not an N8N pro. I got my head of ops and automation. He handles all that stuff. But if you want to learn N8N, well, YouTube, Nick Sarav, he's one of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
biggest
I'm
on
familiar.
there.
Maker School, really good
Maker
dude.
School.
You can get the whole course for free on YouTube. You don't actually need to pay for Maker School, as I came to find out after joining
Really?
it. So yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely
would just go there.
awesome, awesome. And some random questions, like super quick fire questions on the agency side of things. How have you hired up to this point? I'm sure you've made some mistakes because me personally speaking, like the amount of GTM engineers that I went through in the last 2 years has been insane. So tell me about your hiring hypothesis and like philosophy, how it's evolved over time, what mistakes you made, and what you think a dream team actually looks like.
Dude, that's been my biggest pain, and it's not even close. I have not been able to hire. I've gone through a lot of go-to-market engineers. And the problem with that is, well, for one, I don't have a hiring process, right? I kind of just have to do an assignment and go off vibes. Okay, you're cool. You know how to write copy. We'll give you a shot, right? Not what you should be doing. And then there's a lot of people who call themselves go-to-market engineers, right? They learn some clay, but the reality is they have no sales acumen. Like they might even learn how to write a little bit of copy and do some clay work. But what happens once that campaign falls flat on its face, right? They have no idea how to sort of go back, reverse engineer what went wrong, why, what else can we test, how can we make this better, right? So I've seen that a lot too. Like, okay, maybe you understand the principles of copywriting, how to, do not crap copy, but can you truly sort of engineer this if it fails? And that's what I've seen people struggle with. But yeah, man, it's been tough because uh yeah, it's not an easy job. And a lot of these guys popping up are entry level guys and they're expected to do a lot, getting all these leads for across all these different industries. So it's tough. It's been a pain of mine for sure.
Who would you say you hire first when it comes to the day that you open your agency, the day that you landed an excess amount of clients, which you couldn't fulfill single-handedly on your own without working like 24/7? Who were those first hires?
It depends what your need is, right? So in my case, I was doing 14 clients and then 16 clients at a time by myself. As you can imagine, you kind of go crazy a little bit afterwards. So
Yeah.
that was my cue. Okay, I need help here. So, but then it can, feel like more work because then you have to train the go-to-market engineer and oversee what they're doing. And maybe they mess things up and you have to redo their work. And it's just putting more work on your plate, right? And all of a sudden you're behind. But I would say, yeah, hire someone earlier. Maybe when you get to like 4 or 5 clients and you got some good cash flow, make some good profits. Hire someone you trust, or you start the agency with a co-founder that has a complementary skill set, and that'll make your life so much easier. But the solo
Yeah,
founder,
that's what I hear a lot. Like, for whatever reason, I spoke to a lot of people that have a co-founder, so it's very hard to relate to them because it's kind of like, okay, but you can like, just have
yeah,
this
they don't
other part of
realize
the
how
business.
tough the solo founder life is, man.
Yeah.
It's a grind for
What
sure.
would you say are some of your blind spots or some of the things that you're not as efficient at or effective at that you right now get your colleagues to look after? So walk me through what the team composition is right now on your side.
Have 3 go-to-market engineers. I have a head of ops and automation, and I have a CMO. We're launching ads, we're launching content, and we're launching agents that my head of ops is helping me with the agent offering, and then my CMO came on board to do paid ads and content. No customer success. We usually have. I mean, I'm involved with all my clients, so I talk to them frequently, and then my GTMEs also chime in, give them updates, reports, analytics, everything.
How have you gone about hiring the GTMEs right now? Is it just giving a shot to random people that DM you on LinkedIn? Because I've done that quite a lot of times before and it didn't work as well as expected. But sometimes I still have a couple of people now that I use on a contractor basis who, found their path into the agency that way. So how did you go about hiring the GTMEs that you have in place now?
At first I tried doing ads on LinkedIn and got a ton of like over 1,000. I was like, okay, I need to put this down. I was going through them, like no one seemed really qualified. People just hit a button, right? Easy apply, easy apply. They don't even know what they're applying for. So I got Matt, my current go-to-market engineer. I got him through. He went through a Nathan's Clay bootcamp, and
Mhm.
he recommended to me by Nathan. He was completely fresh. He was doing before Clay. He was a yacht captain, so he hopped on this. He was completely fresh to not just engineering but tech. So he's come a long, long way since hopping on, but there was a lot to teach him. And then my new hire, Arian, persistence, he emailed me probably 4 times before I got back to him. We hopped on the interview. I thought he was good at what he does. He did an assignment for me and I gave him a shot. He's doing great. And then, yeah, the rest have been people that DM me on LinkedIn. Give them the assignment and see how they do.
Do you try to standardize the clay table building in any way internally? And if so, how do you standardize it? Is it by labeling like the inputs, the outputs, color coding different enrichments?
Yeah, for sure, man. I don't, I have a template that I built out where I bring all my table from Arc, bring it into Clay. And basically, it's pretty simple, right? It finds whatever missing data, whether that's a website, company LinkedIn, personal LinkedIn. It'll do it through Clearbit. If Clearbit doesn't find it, it'll send an agent to try to find it. It'll clean all the data, job title, company name, first name, remove any kind of characters you don't want. It'll validate the emails that we have already. And the ones that are invalid, we don't have an email for, it goes to the waterfall. What else? Yeah,
So it sounds like, sorry to go in there, it sounds like it's very much to start with like a data normalization exercise whereby any data that arrives, it gets cleaned up first, normalized, and then after that you do the typical like your LinkedIn profile enrichments, email waterfalls, so like account and person qualifications, I guess, to make sure that they fit a certain criteria, and then the only bit of input that a GTM engineer needs to make is just adding that qualification criteria into the table, right? Is that more or less on the right path there?
pretty much, man, on the dot. Arca is pretty good about giving us data, like a lot more data than Apollo would. So we know their start date. We know if they're currently still on the roll. We know their funding, how much, when they got their funding, what this person's college major, education, certifications, Twitter, X URL, Facebook URLs, how many employees in the company, products and services they sell, what industry, when were they founded, their revenue, all that stuff we have automatically. Yeah, the GTME has to qualify on the account level and the persona level. And basically, if it's qualified, the enrichments will run automatically if the output is qualified.
How many clients do you hypothesize that a GTME can manage at capacity, assuming they're working full time and assuming they are competent GTME as well?
Depends on your systems, man. So when I was at ColdIQ, managing 4 or 5 felt like it was a full-time job. It was difficult. But realistically, they should be doing between 5 and 10, I think. Depends on their work ethic, man, because everyone's different. Some of the stuff is extremely hard for some people. For others, they understand it faster and they kind of just flow. And for example, like I was doing 16 at a time. I never thought I would ever be doing 16 back when I was doing 4 or 5 at ColdIQ, right? That felt like a lot. So it depends. Ideally, you want to try to productize it a little bit, especially if you have a lot of clients. Little things, right? Like when I was doing ColdIQ, I was doing all the copy by hand. Like every single bit was starting from scratch and researching and thinking about the copy, right? Now I just built a copywriting agent that's prompted well, good instructions, knows exactly what to do. All I input is the company's domain that I'm selling. I give context to who I'm selling to. I type in some more info about the offer we're trying to craft, or the social proof, hit enter, and it'll craft me an entire cadence, multiple variants, spin tags, and that will automatically go into a Google Doc for the client to approve, and that can automatically go into Email Bison. So all that stuff that would take hours or days now just takes, a couple of clicks. That's the kind of stuff that will save you a whole lot of time.
That's really cool. And have you built that inside of like a custom GPT, NA10? Where does that live?
So my agent, I built inside of Claude, but now I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to move everything over to Gemini 3.
And inside of Claude, is that Claude like the project's equivalent there, or is it just
No, it's just an agent. I give it instructions. I give it examples of a copy that I want to write, and then you prompt it, and that's pretty much it. I use Opus 4.5.
Okay, that sounds really good. And one final question, because I just realized that somehow the hour just flew by, right? You can tell because I had, by the way, in the background to move the light across, because otherwise he would see me in the background. But yeah, what's one thing that really surprised you that you didn't expect to come across when just building out the agency completely from scratch? Because obviously you worked in an agency setting before, but what are some of the things that a lot of the time people don't talk about in LinkedIn posts? What are some of the sacrifices, trade-offs, and what's the reality of building an agency from the ground up that a lot of people may not be familiar with just based on reading random gurus LinkedIn posts?
Yeah, definitely, man. It's the work that goes behind everything. Everything sounds good, right? The money, the freedom, do whatever you want, which is great. But you work so much more than you would at a normal job. It's been, 14 months I've been at this now. And when I say I have not taken a weekend off, I mean, I have not taken a weekend off. Most of my days are, yeah, it's work, right? go to work, I work out, come back, and maybe I'll go out maybe once every couple months, but I've dedicated for now what I do to my work. And those are the sacrifices you'll probably need and that you don't see because things just pop up, right? You might think your work is, oh, I just got to do copy for these 8 clients and get some campaigns launched and I'm done. You might go into a work day and you have like these 5 things you want to do or must do for the day, right? But you end up spending 14 hours doing completely different stuff, just fighting fires. Maybe some legal stuff pops up. Maybe, who knows, right? It's a constant flow of just stuff coming your way that you don't realize. It's not just about fulfillment, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, because a lot of the time you think like, oh, hey, this will be a lot of freedom, as you mentioned, but a lot of the time I just find myself working way long hours. But at the same time, you find the motivation to work because you're working for yourself and you see
So much
you're
better when you do it for yourself, right? It's worth it. It's temporary, right? Once you're established and you have the systems in place and you have the right people in place, then you can step back and you're gonna look back and like, this is all worth it, right? But initially, that first year, you're gonna have to put in some real work and be ready for that.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great note to end the conversation on. Thank you so much, Sean, for coming on. One final question for you. If people want to follow you, if people want to work with Vertical, if they want to get all the wisdom from you directly, where should they go?
Yeah, sure, man. You can find me on LinkedIn. What is my LinkedIn URL? I have no idea.
I actually know it because I had it in front of me just now. It's Sean NY, like New York Wilson, I believe. And because the top link in the description down below will be a guide where I'll make sure to link your websites, your LinkedIn profile, your X profile as well, assuming that I can find it myself. And I'll add that all into a guide alongside the email that you mentioned that you sent out and, you got a positive reply from, just to give some inspiration to some folks. Before you go, first of all, a massive thank you for making it to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, let me know who else you want me to interview next, be it Clay agency owners, GTM engineers, or operators that work for some of the biggest and most powerful Clay agencies in the world. If you tag them, I guarantee you that I will try to cold call them, I will try to email them, I will try to LinkedIn message them, anything to get them to come on this podcast and to chat to me. Also, just pinky promise me to double check that you're subscribed to this channel already. As you know, this episode is a part of a wider series where I interview some of the most interesting creators in the Clay ecosystem. And finally, of course, if you do want to go a bit deeper, the top link in the description is a free guide that puts together all the tools, all the frameworks, all the examples that we referenced throughout this episode. And the best part, if you want to learn Clay from beginner level all the way through to intermediate level, either to implement it for yourself or on behalf of your clients, I've also included a 2-hour, yes, 2-hour free Clay crash course that walks through the foundations of Clay step by step. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. Drop a like if this was useful, and I'll see you in the next episode.